You bought the game. You waited for it. Maybe you even pre-ordered it, watched every trailer, read every dev blog, hyped yourself up for months. And then you played it, and somewhere around R3 or 4 you felt it. That strange, hollow feeling. Like something important was supposed to be there, and just ... wasn't. You kept playing, hoping it would click, but it never really did. And the worst part, you couldn't even explain why. The graphics were stunning, the mechanics worked. The game wasn't broken, but it felt empty. If you felt that, you are not alone, and you are definitely not crazy. Because something real has changed in the way games are made. And today, we are going to break down exactly what that is, why it happened, and who is responsible. Let's go back to 2007. You boot up BioShock for the first time. Within 5 minutes, you are standing in a burning plane wreckage in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Nobody tells you what to do. Nobody holds your hand. You find a lighthouse. You descend into rapture, and the world swallows you whole. Or think about 2011, when the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim launched. An entire generation of players lost weeks of their lives inside a game that felt like it had a soul. These weren't perfect games by technical standards, but they had something that most modern releases don't. They had intentionality. Every corner of those worlds existed because a designer made a deliberate creative choice to put something meaningful there. Compare that to today. Open-world games that stretch across hundreds of square miles but feel like decorated emptiness. Story modes that play like interactive movies where your choices don't actually matter. Live service games that are engineered to never end and never truly satisfy. The difference isn't processing power. The difference is philosophy. Here is the first real reason modern games feel empty, and it comes straight from the economics of the industry. The UK's Competition and Markets Authority, in its widely cited 2023 report examining the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard merger, documented that a single AAA game now routinely costs $200 million or more just to develop. And that is before marketing is even counted. When studios are gambling that kind of money on a single release, they stop asking, how do we make this experience unforgettable? They start asking, how do we guarantee enough engagement metrics to justify the investment? Those are two completely different questions, and they produce two completely different games. The first question gives you something like Red Dead Redemption 2. The second question gives you the 9th season of a live service title where everything feels like homework. When a studio designs a game around a battle pass and daily login systems, the creative vision doesn't come first, the monetization model does. And you feel that every single time you play, the second reason goes deeper. And it has to do with something called content inflation. As open-world games have grown in scale over the past 2 decades, something counterintuitive has happened. Bigger maps and more collectibles have not produced more satisfaction. They have produced less. When a game gives you 400 map markers, none of them feel important. When every area has a chest, finding a chest means nothing. The older games that people remember most fondly were not small because developers lacked ambition. They were focused because focus was a creative decision. The original Dark Souls had a world you could see in its entirety from certain peaks, but every inch of that world was crafted with purpose. Modern open-world design, by contrast, often uses procedural generation and template-based structures to fill space at low cost. The land is there, but there is no reason to care about it. Quantity replaced meaning, and the game became a checklist instead of a journey. The third reason is one that the industry does not like to talk about, which is the death of creative risk. Jason Schreier, one of the most respected journalists covering the games industry and the author of Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, has reported extensively on how the financial pressure on major studios has become so extreme that greenlit projects now almost exclusively follow proven formulas. When a single AAA game costs hundreds of millions of dollars, studios cannot afford to gamble on something genuinely new. So they iterate on what already sold. They chase trends. They look at what competitor titles are doing and build something adjacent to it. The result is a market saturated with games that look different on the surface but feel identical underneath. You have played this game before. Not this exact game, but this game. And your brain knows it, even if you cannot articulate why. That recognition produces the hollow feeling. Familiarity without surprise is the definition of emptiness. Now here is something I want you to think about, because this matters for what comes next in this video. If you have ever found yourself more excited about a game you played 10 years ago than anything that released last month, subscribe to the Inventor realm right now. Because this channel exists specifically to dig into questions like this. We don't do hype. We don't do sponsored takes. We go deep into what actually makes games work, what is breaking the industry, and where gaming is going. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming. Back to the emptiness. The fourth reason is something called ludonarrative dissonance, a term coined by game designer Clint Hocking in 2007 when he was analyzing BioShock. It describes the disconnect between what a game's story is telling you and what the game's mechanics are actually asking you to do. Modern games have this problem at a scale that would have been unthinkable 15 years ago. You are playing a game where the protagonist is supposedly traumatized by violence, and then the game hands you a rocket launcher and rewards you for killing 500 enemies in a row. The story says one thing, the system says another. Players don't consciously analyze this contradiction, but they feel it. It creates a kind of cognitive static that prevents full immersion. The older games that endure in memory were the ones where story and mechanics spoke the same language. In The Last of Us, the brutality of combat reinforced every narrative theme. In Hollow Knight, the silence of the world matched the loneliness of the story completely. When those two things align, a game stops feeling like a product and starts feeling like an experience. The fifth reason is perhaps the most uncomfortable. And it points the finger not just at studios, but at us as players. Behavioral researchers, including those at Stanford Persuasive Technology Lab, founded by B.J. Fogg, have extensively documented how variable reward systems, the same mechanics used in slot machines, can override genuine motivation. Many modern games are built using these systems deliberately. The ping of a new item, the progress bar filling up, the daily login reward. These are not accidental design choices. They are engineered psychological triggers. And their effect is to keep you playing without making you feel anything. You are not engaged, you are activated. There is a difference. Engagement comes from meaning. Activation comes from stimulus. A game built entirely on activation mechanics will always feel hollow underneath the noise, because it was never designed to give you meaning. It was designed to give you more reasons to come back tomorrow. The sixth and final reason brings everything together. Modern games have largely abandoned what designers call the magic circle, a concept introduced by cultural theorist Johann Huizinga in his foundational 1938 work Homo Ludens, and later expanded by game researchers Katie Salen and Eric Zimmerman in their 2003 academic text Rules of Play. The magic circle refers to the psychological boundary that separates game space from real life. When you step into a game world, you enter an alternate reality governed by its own rules. And that separation is what allows play to feel transformative. The problem with live service games, season passes, real money stores, and always online requirements is that they deliberately punch holes in that circle. They keep reminding you that this is a transaction, that you owe something, that there is a real economy happening here and your engagement is the currency. The moment a player feels like a customer inside what should be a game world, the magic collapses. And once it collapses, emptiness is all that remains. So where does this leave us? The honest answer is that the problem is structural, not accidental. The consolidation of the industry, with major publishers acquiring independent studios at a pace extensively documented by Bloomberg throughout 2021 and 2022, has concentrated creative decision-making in the hands of executives whose primary accountability is to shareholders, not players. The studios that still produce games with genuine soul are almost exclusively the ones operating with greater independence from that system. From Software, a Japanese studio majority-owned by Kadokawa Corporation, has consistently prioritized world design and mechanical depth over live service monetization. Larian Studios, which self-published Baldur's Gate 3 through early access and maintained creative control throughout its development, delivered one of the most acclaimed RPGs in a generation without a battle pass in sight. These are not coincidences. They are the product of creative environments where the question of how do we make players feel something is allowed to come first. The good news is that you, as a player, have more power in this conversation than you think. Every game you buy is a vote. Every review you write is a signal. Every conversation you have about what you actually want from this medium contributes to an industry that, for all its corporate machinery, is still ultimately responsive to the people who play. The empty feeling you have been carrying is not nostalgia. It is taste. It is the recognition that games can be more than they currently are. And the fact that you feel it means the bar has not been lost. It has just been buried, and we are going to keep digging. If this video made you think differently about the games you play, or made you feel less alone in that hollow frustration you couldn't quite name before, drop a comment below and tell me the last game that genuinely made you feel something real. I read every single one, and if you want to keep going down this rabbit hole with me, the Inventor realm is the place to be. We are just getting started.